In the very beginning, there was only chaos, a vast, empty void with no shape, no form, no light. From this nothingness emerged the first great forces of existence. First came Gaia, the earth strong, nurturing, and fertile. She gave form to the world beneath our feet. Then came Tartarus, the deep abyss that lay beneath the earth, and Eros, the powerful force of love and creation, who made life possible. Gaia then gave birth to Uranus, the sky, who became her consort. Together, Gaia and Uranus brought forth powerful children, the Titans, the Cyclopes, and the hundred-handed giants. But Uranus feared the strength of his offspring. To prevent them from rising, he imprisoned them deep inside Gaia's body, causing her immense pain. In her suffering, Gaia created a sharp sickle and gave it to her youngest Titan son, Cronus, asking him to stand up to his father. One night, when Uranus came down from the sky, Cronus ambushed him. With the sickle, he castrated Uranus, severing his power. From Uranus's blood that fell onto the earth were born the Furies, the giants, and the Meliae ash tree nymphs. And when his severed parts fell into the sea, the foam that formed around them gave rise to Aphrodite, the goddess of love and beauty. With Uranus defeated, Cronus became the new ruler of the cosmos, ushering in the age of the Titans. With Uranus gone, the world passed into the hands of Cronus, the boldest of the Titans. He became the new ruler of the cosmos, and he ruled beside his sister and queen, Rhea. Their reign brought stability for a time, a golden era where the earth flourished and time itself was born. Cronus was even said to govern the passage of time, giving us the word chronos today. Together, Cronus and Rhea had 6 children. Hestia, goddess of the hearth and home; Demeter, goddess of agriculture and fertility; Hera, goddess of marriage and family; Hades, god of the underworld; Poseidon, god of the sea; and Zeus, god of the sky. But as with his father before him, a prophecy loomed. Cronus was warned that one of his own children would rise up and overthrow him just as he had overthrown Uranus. Desperate to prevent his fate, Cronus did something unthinkable. He swallowed each newborn child the moment they were born. One by one, he devoured them whole, trapping them in his stomach, where they remained alive, but helpless. Rhea, heartbroken and furious, could no longer bear to lose another child. So when her 6th child, Zeus, was born, she devised a plan. She secretly hid the infant away in a cave on Mount Ida, on the island of Crete, far from Cronus's watchful eyes. In his place, Rhea wrapped a large stone in baby clothes and handed it to Cronus. Without suspicion, Cronus swallowed the stone, believing he had eliminated the final threat. Meanwhile, young Zeus was raised in secret by a divine goat named Amalthea, who fed him with her milk. In some stories, nymphs protected him, and armored warriors called the Curetes danced and clashed their weapons to drown out his cries. Years passed. Zeus grew strong, cunning, and fearless. When the time was right, he returned not as a helpless child, but as a challenger to his father's throne. With the help of the goddess Metis, Zeus prepared a magical potion. Disguised as a servant, he offered it to Cronus. The potion forced Cronus to vomit, and from his mouth came the 5 children he had swallowed: Hestia, Demeter, Hera, Hades, and Poseidon, fully grown and ready to fight. Reunited, the siblings declared war on Cronus and the Titans. This great conflict became known as the Titanomachy, the War of the Titans. For 10 years, the skies thundered and the earth shook. The Olympians fought from Mount Olympus, while the Titans held their ground from Mount Othrys. The war brought chaos to the cosmos. Desperate for victory, Gaia, mother of all, advised Zeus to descend into the deepest depths of the earth, Tartarus, and free the powerful beings his grandfather Uranus had once imprisoned, the Cyclopes and the hundred-handed giants. Grateful for their release, The Cyclopes repaid the Olympians with gifts. A mighty thunderbolt for Zeus, a weapon of lightning and divine judgment. A trident for Poseidon, capable of stirring storms and splitting the seas. A helm of darkness for Hades, allowing him to vanish and strike from the shadows. Armed with these divine weapons, the tide turned. Zeus hurled lightning bolts from the sky. Poseidon shattered the earth and sea, and Hades used his invisibility to infiltrate Titan strongholds. At last, the Titans were defeated. As punishment, Zeus chained them in Tartarus, deep within the underworld, behind impenetrable gates guarded by monsters. Only a few Titans, like Prometheus and Oceanus, were spared for their neutrality or wisdom. With their victory, the Olympians rose to power. The ancient world shifted once more. The age of the Titans ended, and a new age dawned. The age of the Olympian gods. With the Titans defeated and the cosmos free from chaos, the world now stood at a crossroads. Power had been won, but who would rule it? The responsibility fell to the three victorious brothers Zeus, Poseidon, and Hades. To avoid further conflict, the brothers agreed not to fight over dominion. Instead, they made a pact to divide the world by casting lots. And so, by fate's hand, Zeus drew the sky, becoming king of the gods, ruler of the heavens, of thunder, lightning, and the laws of both mortals and immortals. Poseidon drew the sea, taking command of oceans, storms, and all creatures beneath the waves. His power stretched from the surface tides to the deepest trenches. Hades drew the underworld, the realm of the dead. Though some believed him unlucky, Hades ruled with absolute authority over the afterlife, presiding in solemn silence. Earth Gaia herself remained neutral ground, shared by all gods, walked by mortals, and watched over by fate. Though divided by domain, the brothers remained bound by blood, and their reign would give rise to a new divine order, one that would shape the destiny of gods and mortals alike. This was the beginning of Olympian rule, a pantheon not only of immense power, but of emotion, passion, and deeply human traits. Their seat of power, Mount Olympus, a mythical mountain that pierced the clouds, its peak veiled in golden mist and eternal light, high above the mortal world. Olympus stood beyond rain and snow, unreachable by man, but home to immortals. There, the 12 Olympian gods gathered. Each had a throne, a purpose, and a story. They argued, feasted, plotted, and loved. They were not all-knowing, nor all perfect, but they were powerful, and they would shape the world for generations. Together, they represented every corner of existence, sky and sea, war and wisdom, love and harvest, creation and destruction. This was the Olympian order, divine, chaotic, majestic, and flawed. Let's step inside Olympus and meet the 12 gods who ruled from this sacred throne room, the gods who made the myths that still echo today. On the shining summit of Mount Olympus, 12 thrones encircle a great hall of clouds and light. Each seat belongs to a god or goddess immortal, powerful, and profoundly human in their desires, flaws, and glories. These are the 12 Olympians, rulers of the Greek pantheon, each representing a force of nature, emotion, or civilization. Let's meet them one by one. Zeus, king of the gods. He sits at the highest throne, Zeus, the mighty ruler of the sky, the wielder of thunder and lightning, the god of law, justice, and kingship. His thunderbolt, forged by the Cyclopes, is the symbol of divine authority. With it, he enforces order in the cosmos and punishes those who defy him. But Zeus was more than a ruler, he was a lover, and not always a faithful one. He took many goddesses and mortal women as lovers, often in disguise as a swan, a bull, even golden rain. From these unions came gods like Apollo, Artemis, and Dionysus, and heroes like Hercules and Perseus. Though wise and protective, Zeus's personal choices often caused chaos, sparking jealousy, wars, and divine drama. Hera, queen of the gods. At his side stands Hera, his sister and wife. Regal and majestic, she is the goddess of marriage, women, childbirth, and family. She symbolizes the sacred bond of wedlock, yet her own marriage was full of betrayal. Zeus's infidelities drove her to jealousy and vengeance. But Hera never directed her anger at him. She punished his lovers and their offspring with relentless cruelty. She turned the nymph Io into a cow. She persecuted Leto, mother of Apollo and Artemis, and she relentlessly tormented Hercules, even from infancy. Hera is a paradox, both protector of the home and destroyer of those who defy her. Poseidon, lord of the sea, deep beneath the waves, the ocean's answer to Poseidon, god of the sea, earthquakes and horses. Poseidon's moods are as unpredictable as the tide. With his trident, he can stir calm waters into deadly storms or shake the ground with quakes. He built a glittering palace beneath the sea, yet often walked the earth in search of temples and worship. Sailors prayed to him before every voyage. To offend Poseidon was to risk shipwreck or disaster. He was powerful, proud, and easily angered a god to be respected, not crossed. Hades, king of the underworld, far below, in a realm of shadows and silence, rules Hades, god of the dead and the underworld. Unlike popular depictions of devils, Hades was not evil, but he was feared. He governed the afterlife with strict fairness, allowing no soul to escape. His kingdom included the river Styx, which the dead must cross, the ferryman Charon, who demanded a coin for passage, the three-headed dog Cerberus, guarding the gates, and the three judges, who decided a soul's eternal fate: paradise, oblivion, or torment. Hades rarely left his domain. He was aloof, yet essential, the final destination of all mortal life. Demeter, goddess of the harvest. Where there is grain and growth, there is Demeter, goddess of agriculture, fertility, and the seasons. She taught humans how to plant, harvest, and store food. Her blessing meant abundance, her absence meant famine. Her most famous myth is with her daughter Persephone, who was kidnapped by Hades. Demeter's grief turned the earth barren. Only when Persephone was allowed to return each spring did the flowers bloom again. Through her sorrow, Demeter gave mortals the cycle of the seasons and the first mystery of life: death and rebirth. Hestia, goddess of the hearth. Though lesser known, Hestia was one of the most revered. Goddess of the hearth, home, and sacred flame, she symbolized peace, stability, and family. She never married, never waged war, and never stirred drama. Instead, she kept the eternal flame burning in every home and temple. So respected was her nature that she later relinquished her throne on Olympus to Dionysus, choosing tranquility over power. She reminds us that in a world of chaos and ego, quiet devotion is a divine act. Athena, goddess of wisdom and war. From the mind of Zeus, not the womb, sprang Athena, goddess of wisdom, strategy, and heroic warfare. She emerged fully grown and armored from Zeus's forehead after he swallowed her mother, Metis, fearing a prophecy. Yet Athena brought not destruction, but guidance. She was patroness of Athens, where she gifted the olive tree, and protector of heroes like Odysseus, Perseus, and Hercules. Unlike Ares, she fought with tactics, honor, and intellect, and as one of the three virgin goddesses, she vowed never to marry. Ares, god of war. Where Athena was thoughtful, Ares was raw, the god of violence, bloodlust, and battlefield fury. Ares embodied the chaos of war. He loved the clash of steel and the screams of battle. Feared by mortals and disliked by many gods, Ares was impulsive, destructive, and often defeated. Still, He had his lovers, most famously Aphrodite, with whom he had many children. Their passion was fiery and scandalous. Aphrodite, goddess of love and beauty. From the foam of the sea, or from Zeus's own bloodline, came Aphrodite, goddess of love, beauty, passion, and desire. Her presence stirred hearts, disrupted alliances, and ignited wars. None could resist her charm, not gods, not mortals. She married Hephaestus, the smith, but loved Ares, the warrior. Her vanity led to the judgment of Paris, which sparked the Trojan War. She reminds us that love is powerful but often dangerous. Apollo, god of the sun, music, and prophecy. Golden-haired and golden-hearted. Apollo was the god of light, healing, music, poetry, and prophecy. With his silver lyre, he charmed gods and mortals. With his bow, he struck swiftly and surely. He established the famous oracle at Delphi, where priestesses spoke his visions. He represented order, truth, and civilization, yet also suffered heartbreak and rage, especially when rejected. Twin to Artemis. Apollo embodied the brilliance of the sun, radiant but capable of scorching. Artemis, goddess of the hunt and moon. Apollo's twin sister, Artemis, was goddess of the hunt, wilderness, childbirth, and the moon. Fiercely independent and eternally virgin, she roamed forests with her nymphs, guarding wild animals and young girls. When Actaeon stumbled upon her bathing, she transformed him into a stag, and his own hounds tore him apart. She was a protector and punisher, a figure of purity and primal strength. Hermes, messenger and trickster. No god moved faster than Hermes, the winged-footed messenger, patron of travelers, merchants, thieves, and tricksters. Hermes guided souls to the underworld and carried messages between gods. Born clever, he stole Apollo's cattle as a newborn. Instead of punishment, Apollo gifted him a lyre and Hermes joined Olympus. He was witty, charming, and always 2 steps ahead. Hephaestus, god of fire and forge. From flame and anvil came Hephaestus, god of craftsmanship, invention, and fire, born lame. He was rejected by Hera and cast from Olympus, yet he returned and built its palaces, thrones, and weapons. He forged Zeus's thunderbolt and Achilles' armor. Though married to Aphrodite, he was often humiliated by her affairs. Still, his genius shone through every invention, a divine artisan. Dionysus, god of wine and madness, last to join Olympus. Dionysus was the god of wine, theater, revelry, and transformation. Born from a mortal mother and sewn into Zeus's thigh after her death, he blurred the lines between life and death, man and god, sanity and madness. His followers, satyrs and maenads, celebrated through wild dancing, music, and intoxication. He replaced Hestia as the 12th Olympian, where she brought calm. Dionysus brought ecstasy. Together, these 12 ruled the heavens and shaped the earth. They loved, they fought, they played with fate. They were gods, but they were never perfect. And in their stories, we see reflections of ourselves. Greek mythology is more than a list of gods and titles. It's a collection of powerful, timeless stories. Stories of creation and destruction, of love, betrayal, vengeance, and redemption. These myths shaped ancient beliefs and continue to stir our imaginations today. Let's dive into 6 of the most iconic tales where mortals and immortals collide. 1. The birth of Athena, wisdom from the mind of a god. Zeus, the king of the gods, feared a prophecy, one that foretold that the child of Metis, the goddess of wisdom, would become more powerful than its father. To prevent this fate, Zeus took drastic action. He swallowed Metis whole while she was pregnant. But fate is not so easily denied. Months later, Zeus began to suffer from an excruciating headache. The pain became unbearable. At his command, Hephaestus, the divine blacksmith, took an axe and split Zeus's skull open. And from within sprang Athena, fully grown, fully armored, holding a shield and spear. She emerged with a battle cry, not as a newborn, but as a goddess of war, wisdom, and strategy. Athena became one of the most revered deities, a protector of heroes, a patron of cities, and a symbol of logic and courage. 2. Hera's vengeance, wrath of the queen. No one rivaled Hera in pride or fury. As Zeus's wife, she endured his countless affairs, but instead of punishing him, she unleashed her wrath upon the women he loved and the children they bore. The nymph Io was turned into a white cow. Hera had her watched by Argus, a giant with 100 eyes, and sent a gadfly to torment her wherever she wandered. The goddess Leto, pregnant with twins, Apollo and Artemis, was cursed by Hera. No land under the sun was allowed to offer her shelter. Leto wandered, in pain and near death, until she finally found refuge on the floating island of Delos, where she gave birth in agony. Semele, a mortal, was tricked by Hera into asking Zeus to reveal his true divine form. When he did, the sheer brilliance of his godhood burned her to ashes. Her unborn child, Dionysus, was rescued and sewn into Zeus's thigh. And then there was Hercules, Zeus's most famous illegitimate son. Hera hated him from birth. She sent serpents to his crib. When he survived, she later drove him into madness, leading him to kill his wife and children, a tragedy that would set him on his path of 12 labors. To cross Hera was to invite ruin. 3. The Trojan War, a golden apple and 1,000 ships. It began not with a battle, but with an insult. At the wedding of the sea goddess Thetis, Eris, the goddess of discord, was not invited. Furious, she crashed the celebration and tossed a golden apple into the crowd. On it was inscribed, "To the fairest." Immediately, Hera, Athena, and Aphrodite claimed it. To settle the dispute, they turned to Paris, a prince of Troy. Each goddess offered him a bribe. Hera promised political power. Athena offered wisdom and military glory. Aphrodite promised the most beautiful woman in the world. Paris chose Aphrodite. In return, she gave him Helen, queen of Sparta. There was just one problem: Helen was already married to King Menelaus. Paris seduced and abducted her, sparking the fury of Greece. Menelaus and his brother Agamemnon united kings and warriors, including Odysseus, Achilles, and Ajax, and launched a fleet of 1,000 ships. What followed was a 10-year siege of Troy, culminating in the deception of the Trojan horse and the city's destruction, all because of pride and a golden apple. 4. Persephone and the Seasons, love beneath the earth. Persephone, the daughter of Demeter, lived a joyful life on earth, surrounded by flowers and light, but in the shadows of the underworld, Hades watched and fell in love. One day, as Persephone picked flowers in a meadow, the earth split open, and Hades emerged in a black chariot. He abducted her, vanishing back into the underworld. Demeter searched the earth in sorrow. Her grief was so deep that the world began to wither. Crops failed, the soil turned dry, and winter fell upon the land. Eventually, Zeus intervened. A compromise was made. Persephone would spend half the year with Hades and half with her mother. When Persephone returns to the surface, Demeter rejoices and spring begins. When she descends back into the underworld, the earth mourns and winter takes hold. This myth explained the cycle of seasons, but it also told of love, loss, and the changing tides of life. 5. Apollo and Daphne, desire turned to dust. Apollo, god of the sun, once mocked Cupid, claiming that love was beneath a warrior's greatness. Offended, Cupid retaliated with 2 arrows, one tipped with gold, causing desire, one tipped with lead, causing rejection. Apollo was struck with the golden arrow and instantly fell in love with the beautiful nymph Daphne. She, struck with lead, wanted nothing to do with him. He chased her through forests and fields, pleading, praising, begging, but she ran in terror. As he finally closed in, she called out to her father, a river god, to save her. Just as Apollo touched her, her body transformed into a laurel tree. Heartbroken, Apollo honored her by making the laurel wreath his sacred symbol worn by poets, athletes, and emperors. It was a tale of unrequited love and the price of arrogance. 6. Orpheus and Eurydice, a song for the dead. No mortal sang more beautifully than Orpheus. His music could charm animals, trees, and even stones. When his wife Eurydice died from a snake bite, Orpheus was inconsolable. He dared to do the impossible, descend into the underworld to bring her back. With his lyre, he softened the hearts of Hades and Persephone. They agreed to let Eurydice return on one condition: Orpheus must walk ahead of her, and not look back until they both reached the surface. He walked, step by step, but just before exiting the underworld, doubt consumed him. He turned, and Eurydice vanished forever. It was a story of love, hope, and how fear can undo even the strongest devotion. These tales weren't just entertainment. They were reflections of human truth about power, about choices, about consequences. In the world of Greek mythology, love could save or destroy, fate could be challenged or fulfilled. And the gods, they watched, they meddled, and sometimes they wept.